This tutorial is a lesson on how to use the Avogadro ball and stick model simulator. I had asked you to download the simulator, and you're going to be using this simulator to work through various activities and construct chemical molecules. So just to give you a quick overview of how this simulator works, you can start by clicking this pencil button. This will give you these icons over here where you have a variety of elements that you can be using, and you can determine whether or not you want to use single, double, or triple bonds. So I'll go through a couple of practice ones with you, and then you can see how to use these on your own to answer those questions that I've asked you to do. So I'm going to start off with a carbon. I'd like to construct the molecule C2H6. So here's my carbon. If I click this box that says adjust hydrogens, it's going to add those hydrogens in there already. Because it's C2 that I want, I only have one carbon. I'm going to add one more, and I don't think I even need to click here. I just sort of extend a carbon from there, and I have this structure. Now this structure is not necessarily the actual shape. So all I need to do is click this E button right over here. What this E button does is if I press start, it's going to adjust the shape so that you have a realistic shape. All right, so I have just created E2, here are my two carbons with H6. So I can rotate this by clicking that rotate button, and it gives me an option to have a line, and I more or less can draw that line wherever I want to get a sense of what that entire chemical looks like. So here's an example of drawing E2H6. Now I do ask that you take screenshots of these, and to do a screenshot, each computer is different. You're going to stop the animation. I'll stop it perhaps where I can see the best view of everything. I think that one looks pretty good. And for my case, what I'm going to be doing is mine is FN screenshot on the computer, and I click this button and I create a screenshot as is. It gets me to print on clipboard, which I will, and I now have that image so that I can import into the document, and all I need to do is just Control V on my computer. Now I know each of you have different screenshots that you can take, but when you are answering those questions, please take a screenshot of just that image and insert it. So let's continue on and try another one. So I go back to my pencil, and if I want to clear the page, I go into Edit. I'm going to press Clear. I can do that by also just clicking the backspace button. So in this case, I'm going to do C2H4. Now I know this one has a double bond, so I'm going to create the double bond where I know it's going to be. And this one here has that double bond, and there we go. We have that shape. I want to adjust that shape again. It did it automatically, and maybe I want to rotate it so I get a sense of what that looks like this here. Okay, so that gives me the shape of C2H4. So for your assignment, it asks you to create various double bonds. What you can do is we can stop it again. You can go back to that pencil format, and maybe I want to create now a single bond. So I click the single bond for carbon, and I adjust it over here, and it will readjust it to what it's supposed to be. So if I want to create something that is more branched, I'm going to maybe create, let's do a couple more carbons over here, and maybe I'm going to extend a carbon over this way. Here I have that branched shape. Okay, it's no longer where the carbons are all in one line, and let's take a look at that using the rotator just so it's easier to see. You can see that there's that carbon sort of sticking out. So when you're asked to do branch shapes, that's what you're going to be doing. There's one other part to this here, and that is where they're asking you to create monomers and have two monomers come together to create a polymer. So I'll go ahead and do one example for you of how you can do it. I'm going to have the monomer that is C2H4O. All right, so when I look at that chemical, And I usually like to draw those chemicals as structural formulas first because it tells me whether or not I have double bonds or not. So first of all, let me delete that. I know that I have for C2H4O, my structural formula shows me that I have 2 carbons. So I have 2 carbons here. I know that those carbons are linked by a double bond. So I'm going to create another double bond. And at the same time, I know from this carbon I have an oxygen coming out. Excuse me, oxygen over here. And I'll add an oxygen. And let me just rotate this to make sure that I can see what we have here. Okay, and let me go back. I realized that I put a double bond there, which I did not want to do. I'm going to go back. I'm going to delete that just by right-clicking that atom, and I'm going to add an oxygen, but make sure that I do a single bond. That will give me hopefully the answer I'm looking for. There we go. And so here I have one monomer. I want to copy this monomer. Oops. Let me have it attach again. I'm going to start this all over again. So let me go ahead and delete. Again, I had, for this monomer, 2 carbons. I had a double bond in those. So I've created that double bond. And then I had a single bond of oxygen. So I have one monomer over here that I've been asked to do. So I'm going to create another monomer that looks like this by going back to those carbons and finding another location. Adding this time a carbon that is double bonded. Excuse me. There we go. And adding an oxygen as well. Making certain that's a single bond. There we go. Okay, so now I have clearly 2 monomers. I want to join these 2 together. So what I can do is I can then simply, and I'm hoping this will be done without an oxygen, I can simply get back to those carbons and see if I can connect those 2 together. All right, there we go. All right, and so in that case, I have just now created a monomer of that. Remember, it was 2 separate ones. I simply just connected the 2 of them. I now have what we call a polymer, or I can create a polymer. And you're going to be making multiple chains like that. So that's also one of those questions where it asks you to take monomers and build them to polymers. So happy working through this Avogadro's program. Remember, take screenshots of all the images and submit those into your document.